40 is the natural number following 39 and preceding 41. Despite being related to the word for, the modern speaking of 40 is 40. The archaic form 40 is now considered a misspelling. The modern spelling possibly reflects a pronunciation change due to the horse-horse merger. In mathematics, 40 is a composite number, an octagonal number, and is the sum of the first four pentagonal numbers. It is a pentagonal pyramidal number. Adding up some subsets of its divisors gives 40. Hence 40 is a semi-perfect number. Given 40, the Mertens function returns 0. 40 is the smallest number n with exactly 9 solutions to the equation phi equals n. 40 is the number of n Queen's problem solutions for n equals 7. Since 402 plus 1 equals 1601 is prime, 40 is a Stallman number. 40 is a Reap digit in base 3 and a Harshad number in base 10. In science, the atomic number of zirconium, -40, is the unique temperature at which the Fahrenheit and Celsius scales correspond, that is, -40 degrees Fahrenheit equals -40 degrees Celsius. It is referred to as either -40 or 40 below. Astronomy. The planet Venus forms a pentagram in the night sky every 8 years, with it returning to its original point every 40 years with a 40-day regression. Messier object M40, a magnitude 9.0 double star in the constellation Ursa Major. The New General Catalogue object NGC40, a magnitude 12.4 planetary nebula in the constellation Cepheus. The Saros number of the solar eclipse series, which began on -1653 May 28 and ended on -373 July 4. The duration of Saros series 40 was 1280.1 years, and it contained 72 solar eclipses. Lunar eclipse series, which began on -1387 February 12 and ended on -71 April 12. The duration of Saros series 40 was 1316.2 years, and it contained 74 lunar eclipses. In religion, the number 40 is used in Jewish, Christian, Islamic, and other Middle Eastern traditions to represent a large, approximate number, similar to umpteen. Judaism. In the Hebrew Bible, 40 is often used for time periods, 40 days or 40 years, which separate two distinct epochs. Rain fell for 40 days and 40 nights during the flood. Spies explored the land of Israel for 40 days. The Hebrew people lived in the Sinai desert for 40 years. This period of years represents the time it takes for a new generation to arise. Moses' life is divided into 3 40-year segments, separated by his growing to adulthood, fleeing from Egypt, and his return to lead his people out. Several Jewish leaders and kings are said to have ruled for 40 years, that is, a generation. Examples include Eli, Saul, David, and Solomon. Goliath challenged the Israelites twice a day for 40 days before David defeated him. Moses spent 3 consecutive periods of 40 days and 40 nights on Mount Sinai. He went up on the 7th day of Sivan, after God gave the Torah to the Jewish people, in order to learn the Torah from God, and came down on the 17th day of Tammuz, when he saw the Jews worshipping the golden calf and broke the tablets. He went up on the 18th day of Tammuz to beg forgiveness for the people's sin and came down without God's atonement on the 29th day of Av. He went up on the 1st day of Elul and came down on the 10th day of Tishrei, the first Yom Kippur, with God's atonement. A mikveh consists of 40 seah of water. 40 lashes is one of the punishments meted out by the Sanhedrin, though in actual practice only 39 lashes were administered. One of the prerequisites for a man to study Kabbalah is that he is 40 years old. Christianity similarly uses 40 to designate important time periods. Before his temptation, Jesus fasted 40 days and 40 nights in the Judean desert. 40 days was the period from the resurrection of Jesus to the ascension of Jesus. Biblical verse Numbers chapter 14 verses 33 to 34 alludes to the same with ties to the prophecy in the book of Daniel. For 40 years, 1 year for each of the 40 days you explored the land, you will suffer for your sins and know what it is like to have me against you. In modern Christian practice, Lent consists of the 40 days preceding Easter. In much of Western Christianity, Sundays are excluded from the count. In Eastern Christianity, Sundays are included. The 40 Martyrs of Sebasta, Hercules, 40 churches. In Eastern Thrace, Islam, Muhammad was 40 years old when he first received the revelation delivered by the Archangel Gabriel. Masih ad-Dajjal roams around the earth in 40 days, a period of time that can be as many as 40 months, 40 years, and so on. God forbade the Fajikan from entering the Holy Land for 40 years to separate them from Musa and his brother. Musa spent 40 days on Mount Sinai where he received the 10 Commandments. Prophet Ibrahim spent 40 days in a fire and lived because God made the fire like flowers. On the 40th verse of the second chapter of the Quran, God changes the topic. 40 was the number of days that Prophet Ilyas spent in the wilderness before the angel appeared to him with God's message on Mount Horeb. 40 was the number of days that Prophet Isa was tempted in the desert by Satan. Muhammad praying and fasting in the cave for 40 days. Muhammad then had 40 followers to spread the religion of Islam. Prophets Dawood and Sulaiman each ruled for 40 years. There is also a hadith from Muhammad that the prayers of a person who gossips would not be accepted for 40 days and nights. Imam Ali has narrated from Muhammad that one who memorizes and preserves 40 hadith relating to their religious needs shall be raised by God as a learned scholar on the day of resurrection. It is said that a person's intellect attains maturity in 40 years, everyone according to his own capacity. It is believed that one who assists a blind man for 40 steps becomes worthy of entering heaven. Imam Bagher has said, the prayers of someone who drinks wine are not accepted for 40 days. Believers have also been encouraged to devote themselves to God Almighty for 40 days to see the springs of wisdom break forth from their hearts, and flow from their tongues. Mourning period officially lasts for 40 days. Yazidism. In the Yazidi faith, the Churmira temple is so old that no one remembers how it came to have that name, but it is believed to derive from the burial of 40 men on the mountaintop site. Funerary customs. Some Russians believe that ghosts of the dead linger at the site of their death for 40 days. Many Christian Filipinos mark the end of the initial mourning period on the 40th day after death, and have a mass said. They believe that the soul remains on the earthly plane for 40 days before entering the afterlife, recalling how Christ ascended to heaven 40 days after his resurrection. Hinduism. In Hinduism, some popular religious prayers consist of 40 shlokas or dohas, the most common being the Hanuman Chalisa. In Hindu system, some of the popular fasting period consists 40 days and is called the period 1. Mandal Kal. Kal means a period and Mandal Kal means a period of 40 days. For example, the devotees of Swami Ayyappa, the name of a Hindu god very popular in Kerala, India, strictly observed 40 days fasting and visit with their holy submittance or offerings on 41st or a convenient day after a minimum 40 days. Practice of fasting. The offering is called Kanika. Sumerian Enki or Enkel is a god in Sumerian mythology, later known as Each in Akkadian and Babylonian mythology. He was originally patron god of the city of Eridu, but later the influence of his cult spread throughout Mesopotamia and to the Canaanites, Hittites and Hurrians. He was the deity of crafts, mischief, water, seawater, lake water, intelligence and creation. He was associated with the southern band of constellations called Stars of Each, but also with the constellation Aziku, the field. Beginning around the 2nd millennium BCE, he was sometimes referred to in writing by the numeric ideogram 40, occasionally referred to as his sacred number. A large number of myths about Enki have been collected from many sites, stretching from southern Iraq to the Levantine coast. The exact meaning of his name is uncertain. The common translation is Lord of the Earth. The Sumerian is translated as a title equivalent to Lord. It was originally a title given to the high priest. Ki means earth, but there are theories that Ki in this name has another origin, possibly Kig of unknown meaning, or Ker meaning mound. The name each is allegedly Huron in origin, while others claim that it is possibly of Semitic origin and may be a derivation from the West Semitic root *hyy meaning life, in this case used for spring, running water. In Sumerian, Ea means the house of water, and it has been suggested that this was originally the name for the shrine to the god at Eridu. In sports, in football, generally considered the number of points that a Premier League team needs to avoid relegation. In baseball, each team in Major League Baseball is allowed to have 40 players under Major League contracts at any given time. From September 1st to the end of the regular season, teams are allowed to expand their game day rosters to include the entire 40-man roster. In horse racing, the maximum permitted number of runners in the Grand National is 40. The distance run in the 40-yard dash, an important metric in American football scouting. In tennis, the number 40 represents the third point gained in a game. A score of 40-40 is called deuce, at which time a player must score 2 consecutive points to win the game. Beginning with the 2013 season, the number of cars that will run each race in NASCAR's second-level nationwide series. The jersey number 40 has been retired by several North American sports teams in honor of past playing greats or other key figures. In Major League Baseball, the Houston Astros, for Don Wilson. The Pittsburgh Pirates, for Danny Murta, most noted as the team's longtime manager. In the NBA, the Denver Nuggets, for Byron Beck. The Detroit Pistons, for Bill Laimbeer. In the NFL, the Arizona Cardinals, for Pat Tillman. The Chicago Bears, for Hall of Famer Gale Sayers. The New England Patriots, for Hall of Famer Mike Haynes. The New York Giants, for Joe Morrison. The Philadelphia Eagles, for Tom Brookshire. In other fields, 40 is also literally in other fields. After the Civil War, there were plans to offer the freed slaves 40 acres and a mule. To understand a people, you must live among them for 40 days. Arabic proverb. The caliber of the bullet in a number of firearms cartridges, most notably the 40 S&W. In the saying, life begins at 40. In the expression, 40 winks, meaning a short sleep. The highest number ever counted to on Sesame Street, a song by Dave Matthews Band. The number of years of marriage as the Ruby wedding anniversary. The code for direct dial international phone calls to Romania. The number in the designation of Interstate 40, a freeway that runs from California to North Carolina, U.S. Route 40, the 2,285-mile highway that runs from Baltimore, Maryland, to Park City, Utah, a portion of which follows the National Road European Route E40 from Calais to Rydder. The A40 and M40, important highways in the UK. The A40 is a trunk road in England and Wales, connecting London to Fishguard. The M40 motorway is the second motorway in the British transport network to connect London to Birmingham. 40, a 1983 song by U2 from their album War. 40 is the title of a song by Franz Ferdinand. The number of spaces in a standard Monopoly game board. The American-Japanese hard rock band Crush 40 featured in Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog franchise with guitarist Jun Senoue and vocalist Johnny Gioeli. The radio program American Top 40. The radio program Rick D's Weekly Top 40. The number of thieves in Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves and in Ali Shah and Zumurrud, from 1001 Nights. The customary number of hours in a regular work week in some Western countries. The number of positions on a number of radio countdown programs, most notably American Top 40 and American Country Countdown. For the early show segment, Chef on a Shoestring, chefs are given a $40 budget. The number of weeks for an average term of pregnancy, counting from the woman's last menstrual period. A 40-ounce bottle of malt liquor, are referenced in the song 40 Ounces to Freedom by Sublime. Canadian hip-hop producer Noah Shabib is known as 40 Shades of Green as a visual term for rural Ireland. Johnny Cash popularized it with his 1961 song of the name, the Tesseract, or 40, the largest ship of antiquity, constructed by Ptolemy IV. 40 is the only integer whose English name has its letters in alphabetical order. 40 Foot, a promontory on the southern tip of Dublin Bay, Ireland, from which people have been swimming in the Irish Sea all year round for some 250 years.